Hello friends, welcome back to Scary World of Tanks with Captain Canada. Today I'll be looking at T-34-1. Ooh, scary. And yes, T-34-1 can be scary. Scary because it has 1000 hit points. Ooh. Okay, I'm not going to do that the whole video. You've got a fairly light tank at 33 tons. You've got a 520 horsepower engine. Out of the three choices you get, it doesn't really hop up too much. You jump from 480 to 520, and it has the same 12% chance of lighting on petrol fire. Next, top speed, 50. It will hit 50. It will accelerate quite well. That is not one of the shortcomings of this tank because it has about a 16 power to weight ratio. Traverse speed is great. The traverse speed of 44 is also great. You will have no problems keeping up with the light tanks that are trying to mess with you. Your hull armor is bad. Everyone will die when you get hit. Your modules will break. You will get ammo racked. Keep this thing as hull down as possible. When you have any situation where you have a hill in front of you or a crevasse or a rock or another dead tank, try and keep everything below this point buttoned up, because everything else will go through. You've got 60, 45, and 40. Your turret is the shining bright spot of this tank. With 170 armor in the front, you will bounce stuff all day like crazy from tier 8s, sometimes even tier 9s. So you got 120 in the side, 60 in the rears. And the tank, just in general, size-wise, isn't very tall. It's not very big, especially when you consider that the next tank actually gets significantly bit larger, because this tank is still based kind of loosely on the T-34. So armor-wise, this is the only armor on the tank that you can really count on, especially around the gun mantlet. Anything that hits you in these general areas here will bounce. Stuff on the hatches will probably go through. Next, we will take a look at the radio. The radio is 750, so that's not a shortcoming of the tank. You got a view range of 370. And that is kind of just average. There's nothing too special about that. Next, we'll jump on to the guns. You have the choice of a 100mm gun, and you have the choice of sticking with your 85mm gun. We'll start with the 85. 13.33 rate of fire rounds per minute is not bad at all, but at tier 7, if you only have 128 pen, you're going to be hurting pretty bad. Even with your APCR, you're still only firing 172 for your pen. And 160 damage is also fairly low, but if you're used to the T43, 160 is not so bad. You got a 0.38 dispersion on your accuracy, so that is not terrible. It's not great, but it's not bad, and your aim time is 2.3. So that gun is usable. It's not unusable on the tank, but this is the gun you want to get, and there are huge trade-offs for when you use this thing. First of all, your rate of fire drops, and you're at about 6.5 rounds per minute, which translates to about an 8-second reload. Your average penetration is pretty much heavy tank territory. You've got 175 with your AP and almost 240 with your APCR, which is nice because it's APCR, not heat rounds. I prefer APCR over heat. And then you've got 250 damage. So this is basically the same gun as you get alternatively on the IS-2, which it actually can perform fairly well with. The accuracy is 0.42. This is bad. 0.42 is pretty awful. This is not a very good sniping tank. It's not even a very good firing on the move tank. And if you do stop to fire, it is fairly laggy and getting your aiming reticle to narrow in. You've got a 2.9 aiming time, but it also seems like there's a lag time that they've got drilled into there before it even starts pulling your aim cursor in. So it's one of the main drawbacks of this tank that I find when driving it. The gun handling is probably one of the worst of most of the tanks I've actually ever driven in the game. It sometimes is great, and sometimes it will just absolutely make you scream. You really need to stop and aim this gun unless you're point blank and you're circling someone, and then you can just kind of go buck crazy wild, and you don't have to really worry about it too much. Next, looking at the crews, I just did nothing too special with them. Repairs, 6 cents. As far as modules go, I've taken a gun laying drive so I can speed up all of my stuff for loading and aiming, and then vents to speed up just everything else because it gives you 5% on top of all that. Ammo loadout, I take 22 AP rounds, 10 APCR, and 2 HE. I don't even know if taking HE even matters. Doesn't seem to really... I don't really like how the HE works in this game that much, so you could probably just end up going with 24 AP or 12 APCR, and you'd do just fine. Next, I've taken a large repair kit because I like to have things break less, and I also taken a large first aid kit because I found that people die a lot more often. So it gives you a little bit better protection for the crew against injuries, and that used to be 10%, but it looks like it's 15 now. I'm not sure when this decided to go up, or maybe it was always that, now it's just dumb. And lastly, I've taken a fire extinguisher because this thing is fairly prone to getting set on fire as well. So between getting ammo racked and your crew dying and your engine getting set on fire, this tank is just has magnitudes of death going on when you get hit. So do yourself a favor, don't get hit, and you won't be sad. And we'll take a quick look at the tech tree after this, and we can kind of see where this tank comes from. So on the Chinese line, to get to this guy, you pretty much just take all your tanks to tier 5, and then you take the Type 58 as opposed to the 5916, and from the Type 58, you jump on to the T-34-1. That leads on to the T-34-2, and then branches back to the scout path to the WZ-120. And the T-34-2 seems to be kind of like a Type 59, but crappier in just about every single way. So, main differences between these two tanks, as far as I can figure, I haven't actually bought the T-34-2 yet, is the turret is slightly better. It's less mobile, a little bit less agile. Just in general, it seems like it's not on paper that great, but you never really know if a tank is your kind of tank until you finally drive it. So I'm going to completely reserve judgment on anything to do with the T-34-2 till I finally drive it. And last thing I like to touch on is the gun depression on this tank is wretched. It's absolutely mind-bogglingly bad. It's like -3. You cannot hardly aim down at all. If you go over a ridge line, sometimes it will throw the barrel like so far in the sky you can't even see the ground. So you've got to be really careful about trying to get into flat areas where you're not hopping over an entire ridge just to try and get a shot off. You want to try and maneuver your tank into areas where the ground is more flat, where you can get shots at things that are a little bit more behind cover. So we'll jump into some games, and you can kind of see how this thing performs when it's duking it out with some of its contemporaries. All right, so we're loading into steps here, and this is kind of the best case scenario for this tank. We are top tier by quite a large magnitude. Steps has a lot of rolling hills and things, so you'll find you won't be able to just pop up your turret quite as well on this map. You'll have to kind of peek around the sides of things a little bit more. And since I'm top tier, it's pretty easy for me to just want to push up, take a commanding spot on the map. So I'm going to push all the way up to this ridge, and then coming around the side, I stop for a Wolverine. You got to stop, you got to aim, you got to aim, you got to aim, you got to aim. Because if you don't fully aim that shot, so much of the time, it will take your shot and it will fling it into the stratosphere. So I popped around just to see if I got lit. I don't have 6th sense, so I was just kind of hoping that something would shoot at me so I would know. Put a shot into the T-25-2 because it's the more dangerous tank. I want to try and get his hit points as down as I can. And I'm still a little bit worried about tanks to the right, so that's why I'm looking that way. And now I'm coming around. Got a shot in the Wolverine. 175 pen is more than enough to peel through his armor. So we got kill number 1. And it looks like we've got a jumbo to my right. So taking a look. See the tank on soft ground. It's doing about 38, 40. So this ridge here would be great if I had gun depression, but since I don't, I have to expose almost my entire tank if I want to try and shoot at anything from this ridge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and come around all the way around through the back and then get up on this hill and see what I have to shoot at. So I'm coming around and stop, aim for a long time. Hit him. And again, we've got about an 8-second reload, and now I have nothing left to shoot at. But we do have the back of this guy to shoot at, who's not really paying attention. And I'm going to make sure I don't miss. Got a really nice 275 roll on that one. Now it's time to press in the attack. So the majority of the rest of the team is over here on the other side of the map. So we'll get in here, see if we can put one shot into this jumbo before these guys kill him. And that's not going to happen. And instead, we run into the Hellcat. So I'm going to stop. And that's typically what happens when you get shot in this tank. I got shot right there, and the fuel's hit. Oh, we've got an FV-304, one of the tanks I love shooting the most, because these tanks are annoying as all hell. And he's going to try and come down, and looks like he's going to try and suicide blast me. So I put a shot into him, and then someone else finishes him off. Now, their bigger, heavier tanks were still kind of kicking around at this point. But I wanted to get in here and try and do as much damage as I could before the game ended. So that T-29 and the AT-15 and the SU-152, they're their biggest tanks. So we got to watch out still, because I'm the only Tier 7 of my team left. So the turret took a bounce right there, which is freaking fantastic. I'm just going to wait for the gun to reload. I'm going to pop out. Get a shot into his lower plate. And then I'm going to pull back again, wait for the gun to reload. Let's see if there's anything else to shoot at. Looks like we're going to cap this one up. And I'm just looking around, seeing if anything else is over here. I'm going to get shot by this guy. And I guess that bush really didn't cover up too much of my tank because I took a lot of damage there, but it wasn't enough to kill me. But it did knock out my gunner, it ammo racked me, probably damaged my fuel tanks a little bit more, also knocked my tracks off. But you'll see at the end, I was able to point at him for like no time, and I actually managed to snapshot and get a shot into him. But that almost never ever happens from my experience with this tank. If you make those kind of shots, it's because you're extremely lucky and the random number generator was on your side. But historically and typically for me, those shots will never hit. I would have to sit there and wait for 3 seconds, and by that time, he would have rolled back behind some trees and bushes. So we'll jump into the next one, and you can see how this thing does on a flatter map like Himmelsdorf. Okay, so I lied about Himmelsdorf. We're going to end up going with Tundra instead. So as you can see, the Comet seems to have better ground handling sort of resistance than the T-34-1. And just driving around and stuff, the reticle stays quite big. I'm going to climb the hill. I'm going to try and get up on around to the left. And it looks like we've got a T-37 that's also come up here. This is one of the more recent games that I had. And we've got a Leopard as well. And I'm already getting shot at by artillery. So we're going to get around, and we're going to stop, and we're going to aim. And this T-37 is done. Move forward just at the right time so the artillery can't shoot me, and this is the biggest problem you have again. You got to try and creep around until you can get the gun down. Now I'm going to try and keep this Tiger here by shooting him in the tracks. So I shoot him in the tracks there. Doesn't look like he can move now. He's aiming at me. And seeing as how he was one of the more powerful tanks on their team, I just decided that I wanted to keep him there. He missed his shot on that one, so I'm going to aim back for his lower plate. And at this range, you maybe don't need to aim quite as much, but it's decided to sit here and duke it out with him a bit. And now he's done. And I've still got more than half my hit points left. And as you can see, whenever you get hit in that certain spot there, it happens to knock out your fuel tanks. So I'm going to pop around this side and see if there's any TDs are on that side. I don't see any. So I have the high ground on these fellas. I'm going to try and use it by coming around and seeing what I can shoot at. So I'm just creeping, and it looks like we proxy spotted a Tiger P. And he takes a shot from Pyramar in his T-34-1. Bounced a whole bucket load of shots from the Leopard into the turret. And again, I'm having trouble getting the gun down properly. But it worked well enough there to get a shot in the side of the turret in the Tiger P. And he's just fixating on our light tank or our Comet. So I take the opportunity to shoot him there. And it's at this point where I see there's a Stug, but I don't want to go out and get my face peeled off by him. And I'm trying to get my gun down, but as soon as I pull back, I can't get my gun down. So I go to the left, and the gun pops up. And then when I finally get a shot, my Comet friend is dead, and gun depression really managed to fail me at this point. And I'm still trying to get the gun down, get a shot into the VK-36. And the game is still really close at this point. It was 8-9. And this is where we had a Hellcat peel around this flank. We took a little bit of damage there, but now we've got 3 more tanks that have showed up from nowhere. These guys weren't here before. So I'm going to wait for this guy to come around, put a shot into him, going to back up, and then Pyramar puts a shot into that guy, finishes him off. And artillery's still firing at me, so I've got to keep moving around. I don't want to be in the same place for too long, because he has to fire at me every like 8 or 9 seconds. So I just want that Hellcat to spot one of those tanks around there so I can see what's going on. And now I'm going to go. Unfortunately, he's got the big gun. He could probably kill me in one shot at this point. So I'm going to come around. I'm going to aim him down. And again, took the snapshot and it didn't pay off. If you don't aim it, it's really not a reliable gun. So put another shot into the VK-36, and he shoots and misses, and now I'm going to pop him again. Turret holds up. And again, I didn't aim. The tank really suffers when it has to snapshot stuff. And another thing about it that's not fantastic is its gun elevation. It can't aim up exceedingly well either, so I'm going to try and get back in behind this cliff. And I'm going to end up proxying this guy so Pyramar can come around his back. And we've got the Stug firing at me, but with .42 accuracy, it just wasn't enough, and I didn't fully aim the shot because he was going to pull back after he fired. So Pyramar's put a shot into him, but he's still aiming at me, so Pyramar's safe to just keep shooting him over and over again. And this is kind of how his day ends. And unfortunately, the Stug comes off the hill and manages to take out Pyramar, which really sucked. I probably could have gone about 2 or 3 seconds earlier than that. So I take a shot from the Stug, hit him on the move. We're up to 4 kills now. And now it's just, we just got to find that last junky little tank destroyer. And I don't really know how I was still spotted driving all the way from here, all the way up the hill, but I guess I was. So we've got him over behind the hill, and he gets taken out by the Chiri, driven by Adam. So at the end of the day, the T-34-1 is an interesting little tank. It's not the best at anything, but it's not the worst at anything either. The things that I like about it is that it's agile, it gets around pretty quick, its ground resistance seems to be pretty solid. The turret is fantastic. The gun depression is pretty much the absolute worst thing about this tank, and the fact that when you get shot, modules break really easy. They haven't given them hardly any hit points. So you can expect ammo racks, crew deaths, and the fuel tank damage after just about any shot from anything in the game. Also, if you get hit by artillery, you're pretty prone to taking quite a lot of damage as well, because there's no armor on the top of the tank either. So between the bad elevation and kind of the really bad depression on the tank, those are the things that hold it back the most. When you can get hull down and in position, sort of where I was able to bounce quite a few shots off that turret. And this game actually ended up being a steel wall and my first class, I think it was a first class or a mastery badge, but ended up getting high caliber out of it, 2,400 damage, and was tops on the team with the high caliber. So, do I recommend the T-34-1? Out of all the tier 7 medium tanks, it's not bad. I did better when I was in the T-20, the American tier 7. I like this better than I like the Panther because it's a lot smaller, and I generally like doing 250 damage as opposed to doing like 130 from the Panther, even if the Panther is more accurate. So you've got bad accuracy, you've got pretty mediocre to bad gun handling, you've got good mobility, you've got a fantastic turret. So that's kind of the T-34-1 in a nutshell. It is more than capable of damaging anything at tier 8 or tier 9, and especially if you load APCR. I don't even think I fired one APCR in that entire game, but it does help if you end up running it with the large repair kit and a large first aid kit, just to help try and keep everyone alive for a little bit longer so you don't have to drive around with a mangled tank. So yeah, I think this is a tank that's kind of fun. It's kind of worth driving. I will probably keep it around because I haven't kept many of my tier 7 tanks, but my love-hate relationship with this tank kind of goes on and on. But I think I'm going to keep it, but I am probably going to start a new crew in it and transfer this crew to the T-34-2. So, thanks for watching my fairly quick review of the T-34-1. Hopefully this one didn't get over 30 minutes. So, thanks for watching, and I will see you again next time.